Hello everyone, welcome to the computer-aided drawing course. In this video I'm gonna give you some examples and I'm gonna show you how we can build these different examples 3D models using AutoCAD. As you can see, we start from simple shapes or 3D solids and we are increasing the level as we move down. This is gonna be all of these different examples. I'm gonna cover them through this video. So this is the objective of this video, is to give you like a practice on the different commands of AutoCAD 3D that we discussed before over the previous videos. Here I'm gonna show you how we can control them, how you can use these different commands, because they are a lot. We do have some commands that would be used for building 3D solid. We do have some other that would be used for editing these 3D solids. So the key idea here, or the challenge that you may face, is how you can, which command is recommended over the other one. So how you can choose between these different commands, how you can break down the shape, especially if we do have a complicated 3D solid, how you can break it down into some simple shapes, and how you can build. It is building a 3D solid, not like building. It means here like there is no one single command that is going to be used for building this 3D solid. It should be build up. It means that you have to build piece by piece, part by part. You have to break it down first, then you're going to finish these simple parts together and you're gonna put them together. Then once we union the shape, we're gonna end up with the entire 3D solid. And this is the basic idea, or the objective of this video, is to show you how we can break down these simple shape, or these shapes, 3D solids, into simple parts. Then we're gonna build them using AutoCAD, using one or two of these different commands, then to end up with a 3D solid. So this is the main objective of this video, and let us start with this simple solid here, or shape. Like this shape, if you're gonna look at it, simply we can say, definitely according to our definition of the like the front and the side view and so on. So simply we can say that this is the it is recommended to have this one like the front view of the shape, right? And we're gonna have here, this is gonna be the side, and the top of this side is gonna be left hand side, and we're gonna have here definitely the top view. So if I assume that I give you like a cubic shape that made of wood, cubic wood, and I ask you to cut this cube into the shape. So how you gonna do it? Simply, you just gonna start to have like a rough shape, very close to the final shape. Then you're gonna cut some pieces. So it means that you're gonna break it down. So you're gonna do the same here in AutoCAD. For example, one of the things, I can build all of this edge, excluding this part. I can exclude this part, this entire part, assume that it is not there, this projected thing. And I can deal with this thing as like L shape kind of, and or like U shape, and it is extended. Like you'd have this face, and this face is already extended in this direction with the 36mm, right? So I can deal with it in this way. So I've broke it down into two pieces, into two parts. Then I'm gonna work over the first part, building the first part as the 3D solid. Then I'm gonna add to this part the second part. Then I'm gonna union them together to end up with a single piece. So, and this is what we're gonna do. This is one of the things. You can break it down into any other way. For example, you can build like a 3D, like you can assume that this hole is not there, this cavity, this U shape, or this slot is not there. Then you're gonna cut it after that. So there are lots of things. The basic idea here is to practice. You need to practice more so you can come up with the ideas how we can break down this 3D solid into some simple parts so we can handle them or build them using AutoCAD. So what I'm gonna do now, as I mentioned, I'm just gonna consider this face as a single face, and it is already extruded. So it means that the best command that would be used for this case, it will be the extrusion command, or the extrude command. In Extrude command, if you remember that your objective, you should have a two-dimension sketch as a single loop, single sketch, and like single object of this face. Then I'm gonna extend this face in this direction with the 36. So your objective is just to draw a two-dimension sketch for this face. Then you're gonna extend it with the 36 millimeter direction. I'm just gonna I'm gonna work directly, and I'm gonna start building this sketch over the face, the work surface. So what I've did here, what I've done here, I just started a new drawing, and I'm using here, as you can see, the 3D basics. So simply I'm just gonna use this workspace directly to draw this two-dimensional sketch. Then I'm gonna extend it. Then I'm gonna repeat this thing one more time for some reason. I'm gonna mention this reason later. Okay, so let us work over this face. Like, assume that your objective is just to draw this face, two-dimensional sketch for it. So simply, it's gonna be, you can start from any point, whatever it is. One of the missing dimensions here, by the way, in this drawing, this height, assume that this height, it is like kind of 20 millimeter, assume that. So simply, you can start from this point, assume that this is your 0 point, you can assume this 0 point, any one of these corner, you can start with it like your 0 point. Let us start with this point at the 0 point. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna start picking a line, and then I'm gonna start from the 0, 0 point. This is my reference point. Then I'm just gonna make sure that F8 is activated, which is the ortho mode. Then I'm gonna jump up with 40, which is this total height. It is 40, so I'm gonna go up with 40. Then I'm gonna go to the left. So as you can see, it is too short, so zoom in so you can see the line. Then I'm gonna go to the left with this thickness, which is already given by 10 millimeters, so it is 10. Then I'm gonna drop down with this height, how much it is. If you subtracted 40, -10, this is gonna give 30. Then I'm gonna go to the left. This width, even, it is missing dimension, this thickness here. Like this dimension, no, it is already there, my bad. Because this 12 is already here, this total distance, it is 40, and there is 10, and there is 12. So if you subtracted 40, -10, negative the 12, this is gonna give us 18. So this line, it should be 18. Then I'm gonna jump up with the 10, because this total height is already 20, -10, this is gonna give us, this height is 10, and this definitely is gonna be the 12 to close the shape. So what I'm gonna do, and this is what I'm gonna do, so we're gonna have here on the AutoCAD side 18. Then I'm gonna jump up with the 10 millimeter as I mentioned. Then we're gonna have the 12. Then I'm gonna drop down to the 20. Then I'm gonna close the shape. You can even type C and enter, so you're gonna automatically close the shape. So this definitely is gonna give us this face. Okay, this face here. Make sense? So we got this face. Then your objective is just to extrude it. To extrude a two-dimensional sketch, there are some conditions that we mentioned before, that this two-dimensional sketch should be closed loop. As you can see, if you start from any point and move with the lines, you're going to end up with the same point again once you close the loop. And another thing, that as you can see, these are multiple objects. This loop, it should be like a single object. To do so, we have to choose all the shape, and you're going to type join and press enter. So you're going to end up with this like a single object, right? So now we can extrude it into the 3 dimensions. So if I decided to use extrude, it is recommended if you can switch. If you press on home, by default it gives you the 3-dimensional representation as isometric. And if you choose the extrude and press enter, so you're gonna choose, he asked me to select the object to be extruded. I do have only one single object, so I'm extruding this one, and it will be extruded in this direction, for example, with the 36 millimeter distance. This is the extrusion distance here. So I'm just gonna type 36 and press enter. So we end up with the 3D solid. But as you can see, this 3D solid for this part, it is oriented differently than what already it was given to me. It is given to me in such a way that this face, it should be seen in the front view. But now this face is seen in the top view. So I do have a different orientation here. There is no problem. You can deal with this one. You can continue working. Even in the projection, you can handle the things, and even you can give rotation to the 3D solid to be seen or to be oriented the same way as it was given here. We can do it later, but it is not recommended, because as long as you're gonna work on more complex shapes, it would be difficult, or probably it would be difficult for you to understand the shape and handle it with a different orientation that is or an orientation that is different than the one that it was given to you. Okay, so it is recommended to stick to the orientation This is what I recommend. But for some reason, if you have finished lots of parts of the 3D solid in a different orientation, you can continue, no problem, okay? But it is recommended to have this 3D solid in the same direction, in the same orientation as it is already given to me, okay, or to you. So, and this is what I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna start from scratch, because I do have this thing is differently represented in over a different plane. And as you can see, by default, as we mentioned, AutoCAD draws over the top view. Over the top view, which is the XY plane as already given here, and this is the small square box that indicate that this is the plane over which you are allowed to draw. Any drawing will be seen over this plane. Make sense? Is how can I make sure that anything that I'm gonna draw will be seen over the front view, not over the top view, because as you can see, this is the front view. So if you have to draw this thing over the front view. To do it, it is very simple thing. If you just observe here the layers and view, you're gonna find something here and use view, or this is by default. Once you open this worksheet or drawing space for the first time. So as you can see, by default, as I mentioned, AutoCAD draws over the top view. But now I want to draw over the front view. Like any drawing that I'm going to represent right now, it should be seen over the front view. So your objective is just to go here and switch this one to be the front view. Press on it, you're gonna still have the XY plane, and you're gonna still seeing the top view. But this top view, it will be represented, or any drawing right now, when you're gonna any drawing that you're gonna generate, it will be seen over the front view of the 3D isometric that is going to be built over the AutoCAD, as I'm gonna show you. So now if you decided to work, nothing will be different than what I just did before, right? Your objective is just to draw these lines again. So I'm just gonna start with 0,0 point, assuming that this is this point. You can assume, for example, the 0 point is this corner. I'm just gonna now in this time I'm just gonna assume that this is the 0 point. Then from here I'm just activating the F8, and just I'm gonna draw to the right 40 millimeter, zooming in so you can see the line. Then I'm gonna go up with 40, then I'm gonna go to the left with 10, then I'm gonna drop down with 30, because this height is already, this distance is already 10, so I'm gonna drop 30, then there is 18, then we do have the 10, then the 12, and then I'm just gonna close the shape C and press enter. So I got the shape. Then again I'm just gonna join all of these lines together, then I end up with like a single solid. Now if you're gonna look at it in 3D, as you can see, it is seen in the front view in the same direction or in orientation as already given here. Now I can work. This is what it was recommended. So it is just one single step before you start. Your objective, this is the first section, or this is the first sketch that you're gonna draw. This sketch, you have to locate or to define where over which one of the three views is already this sketch is located. It is located over the front view. So go ahead over the view and layers and make sure that you choose your used plane to be the front plane. Okay, now your objective is just to use extrude directly, extrude of this object, and press enter, and I'm gonna extend it in this direction. As already seen here, it is extended in this direction by 36 millimeter, 36, and press enter. So I got the first part. Now I have to work over the second part, which is this one. So there are lots of things that we can do for building this one. One of the things, for example, you can assume that this is like a closed shape. Like you can assume that this is already extended up to here, all the way till the end. Then you're gonna subtract this part and subtract this part. This is one of the things. But as you can see, if we did so, we're gonna do it like over 2 steps or 3 steps. Like you're gonna build this part, then you have to subtract the other 2 parts. We can do it differently or in another way. For example, you can move the UCS, which the coordinate system, I mean, like, because as you can see here in the AutoCAD side, that the XY plane is already located over this face. Now I do have like the XY plane is already here, right? So I can move this XY plane, for example, to this face. So I have to manage the UCS, move them to the XY to be the XY plane over this face, then I'm gonna extend it back here. with this thickness, which is 12. But how long this distance, how much of this distance, simply it's going to be the difference, because this is 36. If you subtract 12 out of the 36, so 36 negative 12 and divide by 2, this is going to give us 12 to the right and 12 to the left. It means that this side there is 12 and this side there is already 12. So what we can do basically is just moving back the UCS, the XY plane with 12, we're gonna end up with a point here. Then over this point, we can simply set up the XY plane and we can start drawing this face. Then we are going to extend this face with the 12. This is one of the things. And this is what I'm gonna do. So simply, I'm just gonna work over the UCS. And this is one of the things, like your objective is just to, like the simplest approach is just to choose the 3 points, UCS. So if you just choose the 3 point here, the first thing is gonna ask you where is the location of the 0 point, where it should be the 0 point. The 0 point, it should be somewhere like up to 12 back. One of the other approaches, because you don't have, as you can see, if we choose the 3 point, he asked me about the 0 point, but I don't know where is the 12. I don't have a 12 distance here, okay? Is it here or there or there? I don't know exactly. But one of the points that we can define is the midpoint of this face, the midpoint. So for example, instead of moving here, this is another option, to use the things that you already have in hand here in over AutoCAD, I can, instead of moving this one 12, I can move this XY plane to the midpoint, to the X, making the XY plane here in the middle. Okay, because I don't have this 12, I cannot locate the 12 distance over this edge. So unless you draw a line, this is another thing, and you have to remove the line, so it is more steps, right? So I can set up the XY plane over this 0 point, the midpoint, because definitely I'm gonna have the midpoint of this edge. This is edge here, which is this edge. Okay, so I can look at this midpoint and set up the XY plane to be the X in this direction and the Y in this direction. Then I'm just gonna draw this shape, which is gonna be typically the same like this face or the other face from the other side. Then I'm gonna extend this face in 2 directions, in direction 1 and direction 2, on both sides. Okay, so, and instead of extending them with 12, I'm gonna extend this in this direction 6 millimeter and the other direction with 6 millimeter, and this is gonna be the best option that I can see. So, and this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna start over again from the 3 point. He asked me about the 0 point. I'm just gonna pick the midpoint. As you can see, this is the midpoint of this edge to be the 0 point. Then he asked me to align the x-axis, a specified point on the positive x-axis. So I'm just gonna make sure that you activate the ortho mode and one click to align the x-axis, and another click on the top here to align the y-axis, as already seen here in this drawing, right? So as you can see, XY plane is already seen in this face. Now, if you can go ahead and go to the top view again and start to draw, as you can see, the shape is kind of oriented. If you would like to give it like more rotation, you can give it rotation here, right? To be aligned typically the same way it should be from the front view. Now you're gonna draw this face over. I have to draw like a rectangular shape. This rectangle should be 15 times 20 height. It should be drawn here. So, and this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pick a line from this corner, for example, and this should be 15. Then I'm gonna drop down with 20. Then there should be like 15, another 15. Then I'm just gonna close the shape. See, so I end up here with this rectangular shape. Then I'm just gonna join to be like a single object. Then if you're gonna go back again to the 3-dimension, you should see the rectangular face. One of the problems of AutoCAD actually, that although I have moved the XY plane to be in the mid plane here, so this drawing, it should be seen over the XY plane, it had been moved back here. Okay, the main reason behind this thing actually is the first point that you clicked, because as you can see in this front view, we do have this point, this corner, and that corner in the back. Both are located, even the 0 point, all of them are located over the same line. So it depends, AutoCAD takes it by chance. Like for example, sometimes if you try it again, you probably may end up with this face is already seen in the front here, or it would be seen in the mirror, right? This is one of the issues. So one of the things, it is not recommended to, especially the start point or any point, it is not recommended to pick one of the points that already located to the shape automatically. So for example, what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna draw the rectangular shape differently. So I'm gonna start with a line, and I won't gonna click over this point, because this point, as I mentioned, it has lots of points up there. So it's up to AutoCAD. He can locate this point, or can pick one of the any one of these points. So for example, if you clicked on this point, AutoCAD can give you this point, or can give me this point, or can give me that point. But I need this point in the middle, right? So you can start working, you can work in the 3-dimensional representation, or even you can return back again to the top view and give it rotation. And I won't gonna click on this point, and instead I'm just gonna move, let's say like, yeah, because I need a point here at a distance of 15, kind of, right? So one of the things, yeah, because as you can see, he gives me, AutoCAD gives me in points, which one of the ends, but I need the midpoint. So for example, if I clicked on this point, and this should be 15, and then I'm just gonna cancel the line, and I'm start over by drawing another line, and from this point with this point, so this should be like one intersection point. This is the point that I'm gonna start drawing with, and I'm gonna have 15, then I'm gonna jump up with 20, then there should be 15, and then I'm gonna close the shape with 20. Okay, it is not necessary to do what I've did here. Then there should be like one extra line. I'm gonna remove this line, and then I'm gonna have the line here, and C to close the shape, or up to 15. Okay, so I end up with this shape. Then I'm just gonna join the shape. As you can see, if I gonna go to the 3-dimension, now AutoCAD gives me the same shape but on the front. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's up to AutoCAD. It would be different from one. Sometimes he could, this is one of the problems of AutoCAD, that this face would be seen in the front, or it would be seen in the back. Okay, or even it would be seen over this point. So one of the things, even if it was seen or drawn over the front of you or at the back, so your objective is just to move back this point, like you, because remember, this should be done after you join the shape. Then you're gonna pick this point and move it back here to the midpoint. Click on it and move it. It should be moved, or simply you can choose the shape and type move in this way, and from this point I need to move it to the midpoint here. So now it's seen over the XY plane. So as you can see, by default, one of the things, as I mentioned, this is one of the problems of AutoCAD with the 3-dimensional modeling. Like, since I've moved the XY plane to the mid plane, any drawing that I'm gonna draw, it should be seen over the mid plane. It shouldn't be shifted over any other face. Okay, so this is one of the problems, and I recommend that they have to work over these things. But it works perfect when you move to the mid plane. It works perfect in the SolidWorks, for example, which is much more advanced for 3D modeling, especially for mechanical engineer. But anyway, this is one of the problems, and now you know how you can handle it. If you can draw this face, if this rectangular face was drawn over the front or the back, you can move it, select it, and just move, type move, and then you're gonna move this point to the midpoint here. Okay, so this is the face that it should be extruded. So since we can do so, one would say, okay, there is no need to move even the UCS, right? There is no need to move the XY plane. Even you can have the XY plane here and draw the face here, then you can move it back. Very simple, right? And this is one of the things. It means that it is not necessary all the time to move the UCS, because this is because one of the main reasons that AutoCAD makes up between the points, and AutoCAD can create the face over, or the drawing over, any other face, which it is not necessary to be considered or located over the XY plane that you just moved. So there is no need to move, for this case, there is no need to move even the UCS, but in some more complicated shape, the UCS movement, it would be necessary, right? But anyway, we do have here this face. I'm just gonna select the face. Then I'm just gonna extrude it. As you can see, I'm extending in this direction. I can extend in the other direction, right? So we can extend this face with 6 mm, as we mentioned, to the back. Now I need to extend this face to this direction, right? So I can extend in both directions at once, or I can, after I extended this one, I can work over this face and extend it. I need this face one more time. I can make use of it to extend to the other side. And this is one of the things that you can work over the extension of the face. So, and it is recommended to do so. It is recommended to work in to change the framework, two-dimensional frame, to shades and grades, so you can see this thing. Now I would like to extend this face, this direction to this direction with 6 mm. And to do so, you're gonna work over the extrude of face. You're gonna find here extrude faces. So it is very simple command and very effective command. What you're gonna do is just gonna press on this icon. If you read down, he asked me to select the faces or the face. Here I do have only one single face, so I'm just gonna choose this face. Make sure that this face that you are going to extrude, it should be highlighted. Then he is gonna, and you have to confirm that this is the only face that because you can choose other faces, like multiple faces kind of, but this is the only face that I'm gonna work on, and you have to confirm by pressing enter or space. Then he is gonna ask me about the extrusion height, how long you're gonna extrude it. You can extrude it even following a path. The same thing of the extrusion, like you already doing the extrusion for a two-dimensional sketch, typically the same. I need to extrude it 6 mm, and by definition, it's gonna be extruded in this direction. So 6 mm and press enter. And then one of the options, for example, you can extrude it to be tapered with a taper angle. By default, this angle is 0. And if you would like to extrude with a specific angle, you can give it the angle here. But definitely I need it by 0. So as you can see, it had been extruded 6 mm. And then AutoCAD gonna show us some long list of the things that we can do even for the edited face, or we can use the editing for face. Because it is not just extrusion of the face, we can do lots of things over the face. And as I mentioned, the same company who made the 3D, who is producing the producers for 3D Pseudomax, are the same company which is Autodesk also for the AutoCAD. So they are bringing some features and some commands that you usually shown in the 3D Pseudomax here. One of the effective tools in 3D Pseudomax is that you can edit over faces. And you can start even with a simple shape of simple face, and you can build a character even. So they added this feature in the recent versions of AutoCAD, like we can do editing to these faces by extruding them, revolving faces, like doing lots of things like rotation that are included in the list that was shown here. Okay, so this is simply how we can build this 3D solid. As you can see, we have done. This is the same typical 3D solid that we already have here. So we did it like two pieces, right? We cut it into 2 pieces. But one of the things, as you can see, if I decided to look at it from the different projections, for example, I'm just gonna look at it from the top view in this direction. You're gonna see there should be like an edge, even if it's gonna be clear, there should be an edge here. If we're gonna look at it from this direction and give it rotation, there should be this. Okay, let us change to header lines. I'm sorry, this, so you can see the dash line. Anyway, so this is this line here in the middle. It should be the dash line that represent this opening, because there should be like kind of opening inside here. If you're gonna give it rotation, this like slot, right? Going back here, there should be, as you can see, AutoCAD is still dealing with these 2 pieces like 2 different pieces, but in fact they should be the same piece. Why? Because if you're gonna look at it from this view, from the top view here, okay, let us give it orientation. And going back here, for example, if I ask you to draw the top view of this shape, One of the things, the top view should include this T shape. Do you see this T shape? It should be like a single surface. It shouldn't be split into two pieces. It means that there shouldn't be any line. There is no line here, right? Slicing this T shape, it should be like a single face. But looking to the AutoCAD side here, I'm seeing a line in the middle here. But you cannot remove. Even if you use trim, this line won't gonna be removed. Why? Because now it is not two-dimensional sketch, it is 3D solid. So, but this line is there, and this is one of the things. Why this line is already included? Because AutoCAD is still dealing with this part separately from this part. This like two pieces, this like two objects, two 3D solids. But in fact, they should be the same single solid. So you have to union them. And this is one of the commands that you're gonna use to union the 3D solid. And this is what I'm gonna do. So going back here to this representation, so we can see these things. So union, it is very simple command. Your objective is just to click on it. It's gonna ask you to select the object that you would like to union. It is like join in the two-dimensional sketching. So you're just gonna select this object and choose the second object and press enter. So they already combine together. Now, if you click over any point here, you are selecting the entire shape. So now they are a single object. Even if you're gonna go back again to the top view and you're gonna look at it, you can clearly see the T shape. As you can see, the T shape is already seen as a single face. It means that we are in a good shape and we already automatically created the 3D solid typically as it was given to us. Make sense? So this is simply how we can use AutoCAD. The key idea is how to know, is to practice on breaking down the complex shape into some simple parts and shapes. Then we can work on creating them using the different commands that we already knew or studied before. Then we can union the shape to end up with a single object. Make sense? So this is for this example. Now we're gonna move to another example. So for this example, we do have this shape that we could break it down into multiple pieces, right? Like we can consider this base, as you can see this base here, that like this face and this face is already extended with the 40, right? So this is gonna give us like a base, slab base or plate shape base. And we do have this is like something that is built up over this base, right? Like a single piece. Assume again that you already handling a piece of wood and your objective is just to cut it into this shape, right? So this is what one of the things, one of the approaches that you gonna use or follow to build this 3D solid of the piece of wood, right? So then you're just gonna add here, we can work over this face and we can extrude it with the 24 to end up with this thing. And then we can subtract this hole, right, to be cut from the entire shape. This is one of the things someone else would say, okay, I'm just gonna build, assuming that this inclined surface is not there, like this is like a closed shape. In this way, like a single, you know, like we don't have a base, so we're gonna build the base here. Then we're gonna have this all entire face. Then I'm gonna extend it with the 24. Then I'm going to subtract this inclined surface to end up with the inclined surface. Then I'm going to subtract the top, right? We can do the same, but this is gonna be further more step, right? Because you're gonna add one more subtraction for this to create this inclined surface. But simply, one of the shortest or the simplest approaches, we can start by creating the base. Like we can draw this face over, definitely this is gonna be the front view, right? And this is gonna be the left hand side, and this is gonna be the top view. So over this face, this front view, I'm just gonna draw the shape, which is just rectangular shape with 62 length, height of 6. Then I'm gonna extend it with 40 to end up with the base. Then I'm just gonna work over this face, and I'm just gonna draw this face and I'm gonna extend it with, extrude it with the 24. So for these two shapes, we're just gonna use the extrusion commands. So let us do these two things. Then at the end, I'm just gonna subtract this part, okay, by subtraction, and I'm gonna show you how we can do it. So simply, I'm just gonna start with the symbol shape here, this one. With this is the AutoCAD area again. I have to make sure that I'm working over the front view. So going back here to the I'm starting over a new drawing sheet, and I'm working in 3D basics. So here in layers and view, you're gonna find here I need the front view. I need to use the front view. So then we gonna have I'm just gonna start working over the line from the 0, 0. Make sure that the ortho mode is activated. Then I'm gonna draw to the right, assuming that this is the 0 point, this corner. So with 62, then I'm just gonna zoom in so I can see the line. Then I'm just gonna jump up with 6 to the left, 62. Then I'm gonna close the shape. So I end up with this rectangular shape. You can even use rectangular command to create this like a single object. If not, if you use like set of lines, you have to join them as I just did. Okay, so this is like a single piece. You can look at it in the 3D. As you can see, it is perfectly seen in the front of you as it was represented here. Then I'm just gonna extend this one, this shape, extrude, and press enter with the 40 millimeter. So I created the base, and this is very simple thing to do, right? Even you can use the box command if you wish, but no matter, you can even use the extrusion command as I did. Now I need to work over this face. I need to create this face as we did over the previous example. There is no need. One of the things, for example, that if you're gonna look at it, we have to move the UCS to this plane, like moving the XY plane. As you can see, the XY plane is already here. I have to move it back somehow so I can work over this face, right? But as I mentioned before, because AutoCAD has some problems with this issue, with this creating these faces, simply we can create this face directly over this front face. Then I gonna move it back with this distance. But how much is this distance? You can do some simple calculations here, like 40. If you subtract 24 out of 40, so 40 negative 24 and divide by 2, this is going to give us 8. So this depth here, it should be 8, and there should be another 8 on the other side, right? And this is what I'm going to do. And instead, it is not necessary to move the UCS. As I mentioned, we can create this face, then we're going to move it back with 8 millimeter. And this is what I'm going to do. So simply, I'm just gonna work directly over the top view. All the time the XY plane is located over the top view. So if you would like to align to the 2-dimension, this is 3-dimension. If you would like to move to 2-dimension again, seek the top view, find the top view. So this is the top view, but it is seen vertical. I needed horizontal, right? To be horizontally seen. Then your objective, and this point definitely is gonna be this point, right? Then you're just gonna go up. This total height is 20. So and we already have here 6, so the remaining distance should be 14. So this should be 14, and we do have 55, and we do have 44, and we do have 18. Then we can connect to close the shape, and this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start with line L and press enter, and from this point I'm gonna move 55, and then I'm just gonna jump up with 44, and then I'm gonna go to the left here with 14. Then I should have the inclined surface, but I don't know where is the other point. Then I'm just gonna cancel and start over a new line from this point. Then I'm just gonna jump up with 14. Then your objective is just to connect this point to this point to end up with the shape. So as you can see, this is this face that we draw, right? One of the things we probably may end up with weird shape, because for example, this line it should be vertical, this line it should be vertical, kind of, right? But it would be differently, because as I mentioned, AutoCAD can pick any point in the 3D solid. So going back again to the 3-dimensional thing, you're gonna find the face is already perfectly drawn over the front of you here. Now I have to join it and move it back. But one of the issues, as I mentioned, some of you, while creating this shape, probably may end up with this point with the last line in this way. Okay, the line will be like kind of going back. This line would be like seen going to the back here. If you're gonna go to the front of you, Okay, anyway, you're gonna see the shape is perfectly seen, but for some cases, you may see the line is already going to the back here. Okay, as I mentioned, because if you, when you draw this line, we pick the point here, which is the point from here, then we have to go up. Probably AutoCAD won't gonna pick this point and instead is gonna pick the other point. This is one of the problems, as I mentioned, of AutoCAD. If there is the case, you're gonna move, if you face this issue, your objective is just to move this point to this point here, to end up with the shape is perfectly seen. So you have to look at it before you're doing extrusion or doing anything. You have to look at it in the 3D, making sure that it is located perfectly where it should be. Make sense? And this is what we have here. So now I'm just gonna choose the shape and join. So I end up with like a single object. Then your objective is just to move. Type move and press enter from any point. We can choose this point even. And your objective is just to move it back. Make sure that you activate the auto mode to move it in this direction. Then you can type the distance, which is 8 millimeter, and press enter. So I'm just gonna repeat it again. Move this object or this shape, and from this point or any other point, make sure that the ortho mode is activated and type 8, which is the 8 millimeter distance, and press enter. This is a very simple way. And instead of moving, I didn't move the UCS. And instead, I use the XY plane. I've drawn the shape, then I moved it back with the 8 millimeter where it should be located. Now I can use this one and extrude. And this face, it should be extruded with the 24 millimeter as already shown here. So choose the face and press enter, then extrude with the 24 and press enter, so we end up with the shape. So even if we're gonna look at it in the 3D representation, it will be seen as it is already seen in this way, right? But remember that this base, it is a single object, this base is another object. Make sense? Then what you're gonna do, the last thing that we have to do is to work over the subtraction of this part, right? So this opening or this hole, it is not circular, it has like a rectangular piece. So if I ask you to subtract, the subtract command in AutoCAD, as we explained before, it works this way. Like you subtract one solid from another solid. So this is one solid object, and your objective is just to subtract the hole. So your objective is first is to build the hole, this opening, as a 3D solid. You're gonna build it like a 3D solid. Then you're gonna subtract one solid from the other one. So your objective is just to create a 3D solid for this part, and it should be located where it should be inside the shape. So the question is how we can do it. We can simply do it by extrusion. For example, if we're gonna look to the top view of the shape and let us give it orientation to be oriented the same direction as here. Okay, so if you draw simply, this is very simple shape to create actually. Your objective is just to draw like a two-dimensional, like rectangular shape here. And then you're gonna extrude it down in this direction, like penetrating inside the shape. Okay, so what are the dimensions of this rectangular shape? The dimensions, it should be like it is gonna work in this way. And instead of drawing over the inclined surface, I'm just gonna draw over this horizontal face. Even you can draw over this top face, right? With 23 length, and the width there is 10 millimeter. Okay, because this edge is 10 millimeter, and I'm extending this direction with the 23. This dimension it is 23. Okay, and it should be shifted from this edge with 5. So what you're gonna do, I'm just gonna move inside from this edge, just gonna move inside with 5 millimeter, which is this distance. Then I'm just gonna draw rectangular shape here with 23 times 10 in the middle, exactly in the middle. And this is the first thing that we're gonna do. So over this face, I'm gonna create this drawing. So I'm just gonna choose line, and from this edge, okay, from this edge, from this midpoint, I'm just gonna draw a line going inside with 5 millimeter. Okay, but I've drawn a line with 5 millimeter, but I cannot see any lines. right? If you're gonna go to the 3-dimension here and change this thing, even as you can see, the line is going up. Why going up? Because the problem here with the XY plane, the XY plane is oriented here. I need to draw, I have to move the XY plane to be aligned with this top face. I need to draw over this top face rectangular shape, then it will be extruded down, going down in this direction. Make sense? So this is the issue. If you try to draw anything over this face, will be seen like you're drawing over the front view, not on the top view. I need to draw over the top view. So one of the things, for example, you can change your used plane, or you can move the UCS. You can do either. For example, here you're gonna move. Now I need to use the top view. I move to the top view. And as you can see, the XY plane has been aligned. The XY plane has been aligned to be seen on the top view. Make sense? So I'm gonna go to the top view because this is the view that I'm gonna draw over it, and this is one of the things. And instead of moving the UCS, you can change directly the use plane. This rectangular face, it should be seen from the top view. Then over the top view, I'm just gonna draw a line from this point. I'm gonna draw a line with 5mm. As you can see, the line now seen. Previously, it was seen vertical, like it was seen in the front view. Now it is seen in the top view. So we are in a good shape. Now we can draw another line from this point. I'm just gonna go up 5, then 23, then 10, then 23, then close the shape, see. So I end up with this rectangular thing, right? This is the rectangular face, but seen from the top. And now you can remove this line because this shouldn't be there, right? So this should be the top view of this shape. Now you can join this thing, join. Okay, and then if you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, you're gonna see this face is already down. You can move it up if you wish, or for example, if it was joined on the top, I'm gonna extrude down. Now it was joined down over the bottom surface, so I'm gonna extrude up. No matter, right? It doesn't matter. So in a way, you're gonna just switch the direction of the extrusion, and this is the thing that I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna do here, extrude of this face and press enter, then your objective is just to extrude it. How long? We don't know the height. Extrude it in such a way that you make sure that it completely intersects with the two objects, with the two parts of the shape. So I'm just gonna extrude with any height, making sure that it already intersect the entire shape. And if you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, you're gonna see something like standing column here. You got it? Now, simply, I'm gonna ask AutoCAD to subtract this part from this part. If we did so, and we subtract this part from this part, we're gonna end up with the hole. This is the basic idea how we can create openings over AutoCAD. It is a long trip. There is a more advanced approach that is used in SolidWorks, for example, but this is how it works in AutoCAD. Like we have to build a 3D solid for the opening first, and making sure that this opening, this 3D solid of the opening, intersecting with the shape. Then you're gonna subtract one from the other. I need to subtract this thing from this part, okay? But having a look here, this hole, it should be through hole, and it should be subtracted, I mean this column, it should be subtracted from both this part on the top and the base as well. I'm still having these two bases are two separate parts. So for example, if I decided to apply subtract this column from this one, it will be subtracted from this part only, but it won't gonna be subtracted from the base. So it means that the hole won't gonna be through hole, it will be closed down, as I'm gonna show you. So to solve this problem, you have to union these two parts first, then we're gonna apply the subtract. So I'm gonna do it without any subtract, without the union, and I'm just gonna show you what the problem is. Then I'm gonna fix it, right? We're gonna repeat it. We're gonna start it over after we union the two parts. So how is the subtract command working? You're gonna find in the edit subtract here. If you press on it and just read the instruction, it's gonna ask you to select objects to be subtracted. But the challenge here, or the idea here, select objects that is going to be subtracted from each other. Like for example, you're gonna select this one, and press enter, then it's gonna ask you to select the other object and press enter. So the subtraction thing, it has been switched, right? So the key idea that the thing that it should be subtracted, it should be chosen or selected second. So it works in this way. Like you would like to subtract one object from another object. Or it works, or to be more accurate, we are subtracting from this object that object. So the object that it will be subtracted should be chosen second, should be selected second. Okay, so the main object, it should be first, and the subtracted object, it should be second. Make sense? And you have to press enter between each two or each one of the object. Like for example, it's gonna work in this way, like subtract from this object and press enter. That object and press enter. You got it? So I'm gonna repeat it again. Subtract from this object and press enter. You have to confirm that this is the main object that it should be subtracted from. You are going to subtract from this object, that object, and press enter. Now, as you can see, the whole, it had been subtracted from the single part, from this part only, and it hadn't been subtracted from the base. So as you can see, the hole is closed, it is not open. This is the problem. So for example, how about if I needed to be subtracted from both of them? You have to union these two parts first. So you're gonna choose them, you're gonna go have union and select this part first and this part second, or this first and this second. It doesn't matter the order, just choose both of them and press enter. So now both of them are like a single object. And as you can see, do you see, just observe this face. I'm just gonna undo. As you can see, these two faces like two separate faces, right? Because these are two separate parts. Now if you union them, this part with this part, and press enter, I end up with like a single face, because both of them like a single object. Now if we subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter, you're gonna end up with the whole already going through both of them, because now it is like a single object. Make sense? And this definitely is gonna give us the 3D solid of this shape. That's it. We broke this one into three parts, three steps: building the base by extrusion, building this face by extrusion, then we subtracted the whole, so we end up with the 3D solid in this way. Make sense? So this is simply how we can use AutoCAD for building such a shape, by breaking it down into some simple shapes and doing it step by step. And the new thing here is how to use the subtract. It should be subtract from this object, that object, and you have to press enter between the two objects. Make sense? So this is for this example, and let us consider another example. Let us consider this example. And so it would be like kind of simple to some of you, it would be complicated to some others, but anyway, it is very simple example here that we can do it in just 2 steps. Okay, but let us think of it a little bit differently. As we used to define, this is going to be the front view, and this is going to be the left hand side of the shape, and this is going to be the top view, right? So one of the approaches that we can draw this shape, do you see this face, assuming that this is like a closed thing, there is no opening here, there is no have a circle that is going to be subtracted from the face, and instead of we having all of this entire face like a single face, and it will be drawn like a vertical line, there is inclined line, there is a horizontal line going up, left, down, left, inclined, vertical, close the shape, very simple shape. Then the shape will be entirely projected or extruded into this direction with 40 millimeter. So we're gonna end up with the shape but without this opening in the middle here. So initially we're gonna assume that this opening is not there. Then we are going to create something here to subtract this opening or to form this opening, and the same thing here. So this is gonna be like 3 steps. Like the first step, first of all, we're just gonna assume that this thing is closed and we're gonna extrude it, and then we're gonna subtract this hole and we're gonna subtract this opening here, right? And this is the thing that I'm gonna do first. Then I'm gonna give you another approach that we can skip one of these 3 steps, to be, instead of having 3 steps like building extrusion then 2 subtractions, we're gonna have like 1 extrusion and only 1 subtraction. Okay, so let us start with this shape and let us work with the same approach that I just mentioned, that we're gonna draw all of this entire shape here in this way. Then we're gonna extend it with the 40 millimeter. Then I'm gonna subtract this thing, right? So this is gonna give me like 2 steps. So as usual, I have to switch to the front view. So I'm gonna go to the front, make sure that the used plane in the front view. Then I'm just gonna choose a line, assuming that this point is the 0 point. Assume that this is the 0 point. So from this point, I'm gonna go 70, then I'm gonna jump up with this height, which is 8. Then there should be inclined surface. I'm gonna skip this one. Then there is height 8 here. Then from the midpoint, I'm gonna jump up, draw a vertical line with 55 to pick the midpoint here. Then this midpoint, it will be split because this is 38. So it should be 38/2 to the right, 38/2 to the left. Then I'm gonna jump up vertical with this 55 negative 32 and continue closing the shape. So this is what we're gonna do, like you already drew 2-dimensional sketch. So choosing a line from the 0, 0 point, I'm gonna go to the right, make sure that the ortho mode is activated with 70, zoom in so you can see clearly the line. Then there should be 8 and another line with 8 from the other side in this way. Make sense? Then from the midpoint of this horizontal line, I'm just gonna jump up with 55. This is gonna give me the midpoint here, which is this one, this point. Then I should have 38/2 to the right, which is 19 to the right and 19 to the left. So this is gonna give me here line from that point, 19 to the right and another 19 to the left. Make sense? Then I should go down vertical with this height. This height, it should be the 55 negative 32. So it is 55 negative 32 gives the 23. So I'm just gonna go down with the 23. Then there is a little bit small line here, this horizontal line here, and there is this line. How long is this line? So this like 43, because this is 43 here, negative 38/2, right? So it's gonna give me the 43 negative 38/2. This is gonna give us 2.5 to the right and to the left. And this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna have 2.5 to the right, then we're gonna have the inclined line to be connected to the end of the vertical line with height 8, which is this line. So we got this side. Simply we can repeat again to the other side. You can use mirror even, it's up to you. So from this height, and we're gonna have 2.5 to the left, then I'm gonna connect to the end of the shape to close the shape. Then make sure that you're gonna remove the line in the middle. So we got this face, right? And then your objective is just to join it as a single object. Then you're gonna go to the 3 dimensions, so it will be clearly seen in the front of you as it is already given to us here. Then extrude this face with 40 to this direction with 40, because the extrusion distance is 40 here. So we end up with this shape. Even we can look at it as its visual style to be seen in this way. Make sense? Now we have to subtract this opening, this hole here. There should be something that should be subtracted here. But make sure that you're still working on this. It's gonna be seen in the front of you, and my used plane or viewers is still the front of you, right? So it means that I'm in a good shape and I can directly create the hole here. This hole, it should be in the midpoint of the 70 with a radius of 16, right? So simply I have to build a 3D solid of this hole. Then this 3D solid will be subtracted from the entire solid. And this is what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna pick circle, because this hole to be created, you can draw a complete circle. It is not necessary to be typically the same shape. If you draw a complete circle and you extend it, this one extruded you're gonna end up with like a complete cylindrical shape that it will be subtracted. If it will be subtracted from the shape, you're gonna end up with the hole typically as it is already given to us here. Make sense? And this is what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna pick a circle, choose circle, and from the midpoint of this line, this is gonna be the center point. The radius of this circle, it should be 16. So he asked me about the radius. Make sure that he asked you about the radius. It should be 16, and press enter. So we end up with a circle. Now I'm gonna use extrude to extrude this circle, and press enter this direction and extend it with any length. Make sure that it is completely or entirely intersect with the shape. Then you're gonna choose subtract. Again, how subtract is working? Subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter. So we end up with the whole already automatically formed. Make sense? So this is gonna give us the shape with the hole is already formed, this one, then we can work over the other side. But as you can see, we took like 2 steps, and this is gonna take more time. Can we do it like one single step? We end up with typically the same shape with one single step, yes, by using something which is press ball. So how it works, I'm just gonna start over again, okay? So this is the shape without union. I just draw this shape, right? So the first step that your objective is just to draw the entire shape. Then now without union, before you do union to the shape or doing extrusion, your objective is just to draw the circle. And from the midpoint, the circle it should be with a radius 16. Then you're gonna use trim, and then you're gonna trim this part. This face is already typically the same like this face, right? One of the options in AutoCAD that press ball is doing the same as extrusion. But extrusion is working with the shape like it should be closed loop to be extruded, right? So for example, I can even, by the way, I can use extrude to this one because this is like form a closed loop. If you start from any point, you're gonna end up with to the same point again. So it is single closed loop. So you can use either press ball or you can use extrude to do so, right? So, and this is what we're gonna do. Like for example, I'm just gonna join all of this shape together, and it will be like a single object scene. If you decided to do extrude of this face and press enter, it will be extruded and the hole will be automatically formed, right? So extrude with 40, and you're gonna end up with the hole automatically formed without spending one more step to create or to open this hole. Why? Because as you can see from the drawing, it is clearly seen that these edges, this one, and this curve, and this curve, this shape, it is already like a single closed loop. So I can create this hole and extrude it, no problem. With one step, I end up with the shape. Make sense? Also, you can use the command which is press ball. Press ball, it is much more recommended, assume. So one of the things that I'm just gonna add one more feature here. How about if you have another circle in the middle? It is not there in the original drawing, but assume that there is another circle. So this circle form another loop in the drawing, and assuming that this circle representing a hole in the shape. So if you decided to use extrude for this shape and this shape, so you're already extruding both, and press enter and extrude with 40, so we're gonna end up with 2 solid objects, but without hole. There is no hole. This hole, it is cylinder already. Then you have to subtract from that object and press enter this object and press enter to end up with the hole, as it will be seen here. You got my point? So, like for example, just let me give it orbit. So as you can see, the hole is already formed. So if I decided to do it, if you use the extrude to extrude multiple loops, all of them will be created like solids. But how about if I do have this shape this way, like this is one loop and this is another loop, which is the circle, but this second loop, which is this circle, it should be representing a hole inside the shape. So you can use press ball directly and the hole will be formed automatically without spending time with the subtract. Okay, so press ball, and your objective is just to click inside between the tool. Don't select any or select none of these two loops. Click on the area between them. The area that you need it to be solid. I need this part to be solid and this should be cavity and this should be cavity, right? So click inside over the solid part, click on it, and you can extend with 40, and that's it. So if you're gonna look at it in the change the visual style, you're gonna see the hole had been formed automatically, as you can see. Okay, so this is the good idea of the press ball. This is one of the things. Press ball is very effective in case that you do have multiple holes, or I'm sorry, multiple loops already intersecting, not intersecting, or one inside the other one, and you would like to, and one of these openings or these loops represent a hole or opening into the shape. So you have, your objective is just to click between them. Don't select one of the loops. It works differently a little bit than the Extrude. Extrude, you have to choose the loops, and if you did so, you using Extrude, you're gonna end up with both of them are solid. Then you have to subtract one from the other. Okay, but this is not the case. So as I mentioned, this one we can do it like by subtraction of this hole, or we can automatically form this shape, and we can extend it using Extrude to this shape. Just choose the shape and extrude with 40 to this side. We're gonna end up with a solid object in one step with this hole is already formed. Now we have to work over this opening. This opening, if you're gonna look at it, as you can see, it is extended in the 35. It is extended from the top going down or from this surface going up. It doesn't matter. So the key idea here, one of the things that we can work over this top surface, and we can extend it or extrude down the shape into 35 millimeter distance to end up with the shape. But what about the shape from the top view? If we're gonna look at it from the top view, just let us move to the top view of the shape here. So simply I can draw like a rectangular shape in this way, like just rectangular shape here. Like you're already drawing a rectangular shape over this area and another rectangular shape here, and you extrude them vertically, project like they penetrate over the shape, typically as we did before in the previous example. Okay, but this rectangular shape, it should be the width, it is already given by 24, and it should be located from 8 from that side, right? And it should be penetrating here with 5 millimeter, and it should be extended. So from here I can draw over the top view this rectangular shape with any length. The width, it should be 24, and the length, it should be any length, whatever it is, making sure that already completely intersect. When we extrude this thing vertical up to this height, you're gonna end up with like one solid object kind of projected of the shape. Then I'm gonna subtract this thing from this entire shape, and I'm gonna do the same from the other side. Okay, so this is the best approach, and this is one of the simplest things, and it will be extruded with the 35 millimeter as already given here. Yeah, okay, so, and this is what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna start here by creating in the AutoCAD side. I'm just gonna start with a line, and I should start from this point. I'm just gonna move 8 inside, then 5 going back from that point. And but by the way, you have to switch the direction. The front, the use plane, it should be the front, the top view. You have to switch to the top view, so you're gonna see the 2-dimension sketch. The XY plane is already located on the top. Okay, in this way. So this should be the top view, and we're gonna have here from, make sure that you can clearly see the lines from this point, which should be this point, you're just gonna go down here 8 millimeter, and you're gonna move to the right with 5 millimeter. Then we're gonna have here the 24, and extend with any lengths. Make sure that you already entirely intersect or cover the shape, and going next to this point with this height, or you can go up with 24 and then close the shape. Okay, so going again to the 3 dimension, you're gonna see lots of lines. Like there are 2 lines here, which because I draw 8 then 5, I have to remove them because they are not part of the drawing. Then you're gonna close even, or even you can just remove the 8 because the 5, it is part of the drawing. So this is gonna give us the shape. Then we can union this shape, or we can even go back again to the top view and we have like a mirror of this shape. So we can draw a line in the middle here to be the mirror line. Then I'm gonna choose this shape and I'm gonna give or type mirror and press enter of that shape, with respect to this line, and keep erase. He asked me to erase the source. No, don't erase, you just keep the source as it is. Then you can remove the line in the middle. So going again to the 3 dimension, I do have the 2 shapes that should be extruded, but I have to join them. So I'm just gonna choose this shape and join, and I'm gonna choose this loop and join. You can choose both of them at once, and AutoCAD gonna deal with this one like one single loop, and this is another single loop. Then you can use extrude for both of them and press enter, and both should be extruded down with a height which is already given to us here by 35 millimeter, and press enter. Okay, so as you can see, these 2 objects, they do intersect with the main object in the typical exacting. The intersection area or the intersection volume it's gonna give us this cavity or this opening. So simply if you use subtract again from this object and press enter, that object and press enter, so we're gonna end up with the opening. And repeat again for the other side, from that object, from this object, press enter, that object and press enter, you're gonna end up with the opening from the other side. Make sense? So this at the end is gonna give us the 3D solid, which it should be typically the same like this one. Okay, so this is for this example, and now let us move to another example. So for this example, we can start creating it with different approaches or different things. But one of the simplest approaches actually, as you can see, this is the front of you, and this is gonna be the left hand side of the shape, and definitely this is gonna be the top view, right? So one of the approaches, or one of the things, like your objective is just to try to seek a flat surface that it will be extended like this way. Like in the side view here, this face, I can extend it all the way with this total distance, which is 80. So I'm gonna end up with the shape, but without this hole, without this opening, without this opening, right? Then I'm gonna start to create these openings by subtract them from the entire shape. This is one of the things, and the simplest approaches actually is to do so. Someone else would say like, okay, I'm gonna start from the top view, from the front of view. But to start from the front of view, I'm gonna find a single face, right? But in the side view, I do have a single face, which is this one, and this face is already extended with 80 millimeter, right? It is extended with the 80 millimeter, so we can work over this face first, over the side, left-hand side view, and extend it with the 80 to end up with the shape. Then we're gonna work over these subtraction things, and this is the first thing that I'm gonna do. Initially, I'm gonna start by changing the used view to be the left view, the left. I need the left side because this is the left view. Now, as you can see, the XY plane has been moved to this left view, but still it is seen in the top view. No matter, it doesn't matter here. But anyway, now I'm working over the left-hand side of the 3D solid as we agreed before. Then I'm gonna start creating this shape, starting from, for example, from this point. I'm gonna assume that this is the 0 point, and I'm gonna draw 58 to the right, up 50, right 40, right? Then I'm gonna go down 30. Then there is this line, it is 10 up there. Then you can close the shape. And this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna start with line from the 0, 0 point, and make sure that the ortho mode is activated. I'm gonna have 58. The line is too short. Zoom in so you can see the line. Then from the other side, I'm gonna start going up with 50. Then you're gonna go to the right with 40. Then I'm gonna jump down with 30. Then I do have 10 to the right. Then C to close the shape. I'm sorry. So my bad. So C, if you try to close the shape with the 0 point anyway. So C and line, and just close the shape by connecting these 2 points. So we end up with this shape. Then you're gonna join it, and if you're gonna go to the 3-dimensional thing, you're gonna see the shape is already seen in the side view as typically given here. Then you're gonna use extrude of this shape, and you're gonna extrude it with 80. So this is gonna give us the rough shape, the base. Then we have to subtract this thing and this semicircle, right? One of the things we can subtract this semicircle or this circle, we can deal with it like a complete circle in the beginning, and then this circle, it will be extruded into a cylindrical shape in this direction to be entirely subtracted from the shape. And this is the thing that we're gonna do. So what is the radius of this circle? The radius of this circle is given by 24 millimeter, and its center point, it should be at the midpoint of the area. And this is what we're gonna do here. I'm just gonna start drawing a circle, C, and type enter, type C and enter from this midpoint. As you can see, if you try to draw the circle is seen over the XY plane. It is seen in the side, but I need it to be oriented on the top. For example, this C circle, as you can see, it is seen in the side view. I need it in the front view, and the front view won't gonna be seen. It will be seen like a line. Okay, so it means that you have one of the two options, either to move the UCS, or you can change the plane over which, or the use view. So I'm gonna go to the use view to be front view, because this circle should be seen in the front view. Then over this front view, I'm just gonna draw a circle from this midpoint. This circle, it should be with a radius 25 millimeter. Then if you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, this should be the circle. You can move it to the front here, or you can extend back, or you can keep it at the back and extend this direction. It doesn't matter. So then you can extrude, choose this one, this circle, and extrude with any length. Make sure that you already entirely intersect with or completely intersect with the shape. Then if you use subtract from this object and press enter, that object, and press enter, you're gonna end up with the opening. So we got the opening. We still need to form these two openings here, this one and this one. Let us work over this 11 depth. Again, this can be drawn from the top. From the top view, you can draw a rectangular shape in this way with width of 40, and it should be in the middle, because this is 20, so this side it should be 20 as well, because this total edge is 80. And this length, it should be any length. Make sure that already completely cover the shape, and you're gonna go down with 11 to end up with this opening, right? Typically, as we did in the previous example. So we can do so, but we have to work over the top view. So now I'm gonna move to the top view. Move to the top view here, okay? And on the top view, I'm gonna work over this face, and then I'm gonna draw this rectangular shape, but it should be somehow inside by 5 millimeter, right? So I'm just gonna pick a line, and from this edge, I'm just gonna go inside 5 millimeter. Or definitely, there is no need even to draw this line here. There is no need to draw this line, because this 5, it should be in the middle of the 10. So from the midpoint of this edge, do you see this midpoint? Okay, I'm just gonna go inside with 20 to locate the first side of the rectangular shape. Then I'm just gonna draw in a line, making sure that it completely cover the shape. Then you're gonna go to the left with 40, right? Just gonna go to the left with 40. Then I'm gonna go inside up to that point of intersection. If you can see the dash line, the dashed green line, I can convert here to the 2-dimensional sketching, and this extension this way. Then you're gonna close the shape. Okay, then you can remove this line, because it is not part of the drawing. Then if you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, you're gonna see this rectangular shape. Then you can choose this shape and join it. Join and press enter. Then you're gonna use extrude of this shape and press enter and extend it with just 11, because this height, this depth is just 11 up there. 11 and press enter. So we end up with something that already intersecting with the shape in the opening that we need to form. Okay, so these two objects, this one and this one, both are intersecting. So we're gonna use subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter. We're gonna end up with the opening will be automatically formed. Make sense? Do the same for the other one. For this one, simply we can draw like a complete rectangular shape here on the top. In this way, the width of this rectangular shape is 20, and the length, it should be exactly the same length as from that point to this point, which it should be like the length is already given here as 64, I'm sorry, and it should be exactly in the middle of the 80. Okay, and this 20, it should be in the middle of the 40, because this is 10, so there should be another 10 from the other side, so the total distance, it should be 40, and the depth, it should be penetrated inside with 15 millimeter height. Make sense? And this is what we're going to do. So we have to draw over the top view. So I'm going to change the use plane to be the top view again. Make sure that it is the top view. And over this top view, I'm just going to start to create this rectangular shape in the middle. So from this midpoint, I'm just going to go down. I'm going to go to the left with this distance. How much is this distance? It should be 80, negative 64 over 2. Right? This distance, it should be 80, negative 64 over 2, which is gonna give us 8 millimeters. So it means that I'm just gonna draw a line to the left with 8 millimeters. This is gonna give me this point. This end point of this line is gonna be the midpoint of the 20, right? So from that point, I'm just gonna draw a line to the top with 10. Then I'm gonna move 64, and then I'm gonna go down 20, then 64 to the right, then I'm gonna close the shape with 10. So I end up, then I can remove this line. Make sure that you remove this line. Okay, this line, this 8, right? So I'm gonna end up with this shape, this rectangular shape on the top. Even if you're gonna go to the 3 dimension, you're gonna see this shape is already seen in the top. Then your objective is just to choose this one and join and press enter. So this is the thing that should be subtracted or extruded, I'm sorry, extruded down, then to be subtracted. So you're gonna choose extrude of this shape, and it is not any height, it should be just extruded with 15. The height here is already given by 15, so 15 and press enter. So we're gonna end up with like a bridge, right? Then we're gonna subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter. You're gonna end up with the shape. Make sense? So again, we end up with this bridge. If you subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter, you're gonna end up with the shape, which typically is the same as the given 3-dimensional solid in this way. So again, this is another example, and as you can see, these things, there are lots of approaches. You can use a different approach to create this shape, but what I'm presenting here is the shortest path to end up with this shape, or the simplest approach to create the shape is just to break it down into some simple shapes. And these things, to come up with this approach or to come up with these ideas, this require more practicing. Okay, and this is for this example, and let us move to another one. So now let us consider this shape. It would seem kind of complicated, but if you try to break it down, it's gonna be much more simple, right? As we agreed through this video. So one of the things, for example, that I can work over the base, like I'm just gonna draw this face and I'm gonna extend it or extrude it by 50 millimeter, and definitely this is gonna be the front, and this is gonna be the left hand side of the shape, and this is gonna be the top view. Make sense? So we can start with the base, then we gonna extruded with 50. This is one of the things. Then you just gonna draw, assume that this cylindrical thing is not there, and even this opening is not there in the beginning. And then I'm just gonna draw this face, this entire face, like it is like a complete face in this way, trapezoidal shape. Then I'm gonna extend it with this distance, which is already given by 30. Do you see the 30? This should be the extension or the extrusion of this face, right? Then we can work over the cylindrical thing and the other features. So let us build these base things first, then let us see how we can move over these things. So I'm just gonna start with the front view. So I'm gonna move to the front view, the use plane or view. It's gonna be the front view. Then I'm gonna pick line from the 0, 0 point. This is the 0 point. Make sure that the ortho mode is activated. I'm gonna draw this rectangular shape with 90 and height is 10 as seen here. So 90 to the right, then I'm gonna zoom in so I can see the line go up with 10, then 9 to the left, then C to close the shape. So this is the rectangular base. Then I'm just gonna join it. And if you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, it will be clearly seen in the front view. Then extrude and press enter this shape with 50 millimeter length. So this is the base. Then how about this trapezoidal face that we can draw? We can draw this one. We can use the UCS by moving the UCS inside, or even the simplest approach is just to draw this face over the front view, and we're still working over the XY planes already seen in the front view. Then we can move it back with this depth. This depth is already given by the 50, negative 30, so this should be definitely 10 millimeter, and from the other side it should be 10 millimeter. So you're gonna move it back to the 10 millimeter, and this is what I'm gonna do. And the top view, or going back again to the front view, I'm still working on the front view of the shape. I'm just gonna pick line from that point. I'm just gonna move to the other point with 90, then from the midpoint, right, then you're gonna go up with this total height. This total height is given by 50. Do you see this 50? Right? So I'm just gonna go up here with 50, and this is gonna give me the midpoint on the top here. Then from this midpoint, I'm gonna go to the right with this width, which is already given by 50. So it means that from the midpoint, I'm gonna go to 25 and 25 right and left, and this is what I'm gonna do. So to the right 25, and to the left 25, and then your objective is just to close the shape. Connect this point to this point and this point to this point with a line. So, and make sure that you remove the line in the middle. If you're gonna go to the 3-dimension, make sure that this shape is already seen in the over the front view, standing over the front view in this way. Then you have to close the shape. Many of you would miss or forget this line. Don't forget this line. There should be a line. This should be closed loop. Don't draw just 3 lines and keep this one opened. There should be, you have to draw this line, then you're gonna draw the other 3 lines. You're gonna end up with a closed loop, and this is what we did. Okay, so choosing this thing and join and close, so you're gonna end up with the loop. Then, or this like a single object, then you have to move it back first before you do the extrusion. Move, type, choose the object and type move, and from this point move it back. Make sure that the ortho mode is activated and just move it back and type 10 millimeter. As we agreed, this distance is just 10 millimeter, so it had been shifted back 10 millimeter. Then now I can use extrude to this face, and it should be extruded by 30. This distance, it should be 30, and press enter. You're gonna end up with the shape. So even you can change the visual style to be seen like as already seen here. Make sense? Now we have to work over this cylindrical part. Leave this opening in the middle till the end. We are assuming that this opening is not there. So what we're gonna do, this is the last thing that you're gonna do actually, and I'm gonna let you know why. So we have to work over creating the cylindrical shape first, and then even this opening, it should be like in the beginning. I'm gonna assume that this hole and this hole is not there, so this is like a single hole through all the shape. And in the beginning, I'm just gonna create this cylindrical outer with outer diameter is already given by diameter 40, and this should be cylinder that should be extended from that point to that other point, should be extruded, and it won't gonna be subtracted. So you have to stick to the dimensions, and the length of this cylinder, it should be 60, and this 60 should be like typically in the middle. If you draw this circle in the middle, we can even one of the approaches to create this, draw the circle in the middle, and we can extrude this direction with 30 and on the other direction with 30 to end up with the cylinder. Okay, this is one of the approaches. Or even you can draw the circle over this face. We already have this face, which is this face. You can draw the circle, but you're gonna extrude back with how long? Because as you can see, this should be 60, so this is 30, so you're gonna have 30 plus the 15, so this should be extruded back with 45, and from this direction with 15 to end up with the 60. Okay, this is one of the approaches to create this 3D solid of the cylinder itself. Make sense? So, and this is what we're gonna do. One of the simplest things is just to draw a circle over this face, and the circle, it should be with a diameter of 40, but its center point, it should be somehow from the midpoint. This is the midpoint of that line. You're gonna go up with 45, right? You're gonna go up 45 to locate the center point over this face, then you're gonna draw the circle. Okay, so this is one of the approaches. Or you can even draw the circle over the front of you and move it back in the middle to be located in the middle of the shape. So we can pick circle. You can work in the 3-dimension if you wish, or you can work in 2-dimension. So it is recommended for this one to work in the 3-dimension so you can see exactly what you are doing. So I'm just gonna choose a line from the midpoint down here, then I'm gonna go up vertical, make sure that the ortho mode is activated 45 to locate the center point. So the end point of this line, it should give me the center point of this circle, right? Then you're just gonna draw a circle from this midpoint. As you can see, it is seen in the front of you because the XY plane is aligned to the front of you. So we are in a good shape. We're still working over the front of you. The diameter is 40, so it means that the radius is 20, and press enter. So you're gonna end up with this circle as already seen here. Now you can have one of the two options, either to align this center, to move it back to the mid plane and extrude to the right and to the left 30 and 30, or you can move it to this face and extrude back 45 and to the front with 5. It's up to you. Okay, so but the question, how we can move it back? If you decided to move it back to the midpoint, you have to draw a line here, and this line, it should be going inside the shape as already seen here, and it should be located somehow. It should be in the middle, because this width there is 50, the width of the base, because it is seen over the, like, if I give it like orientation in this direction, as you can see, I have to move it back with half of the 50, because this entire distance it is 50, so it should be in the middle at 25, right? So you can even move it back 25 directly, like choosing this circle and move and press enter. I'm just gonna move this circle back this direction with 25 and press enter. So as you can see, the circle, it is inside the shape, but it is located in the mid plane of the shape. Okay, then you're gonna choose, now there is no need for this line, you have to remove it. Then I'm gonna choose this circle, it is already a single loop. Then you're gonna extrude this circle in the other side, in this side with 30 millimeter, and then I'm gonna extrude this face. Now you're gonna work over the extrusion of the face. So you're gonna go to edit, and you're gonna find here extrude faces, this icon, and then you're gonna choose this face and press enter to confirm your choice. Then it's gonna ask you about the height or the extrusion height, which it should be 30, it should be extruded by 30, and with 0 taper angle. He asked me about the taper angle. I'm just gonna keep it 0 as it is, so it will be extruded to the other side with 30. Make sense? So now we end up with the cylinder that had been extruded, but remember that this cylinder with this base, with this thing, all of these three objects should be like a single object, right? Then we can work over the subtraction. So if you finish all the solids that should be built together, now you have to join them first. You have to union them first, then you can work over the subtraction. Because we still need two things to be subtracted. This hole should be subtracted, and this slot, it should be subtracted as well, right? So before applying any subtraction, you have to join. It is recommended to union all of these three solids or three parts into one part. And this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna choose union of this solid with this solid and this solid and press enter. So the three will be union together, okay, like a single object. Now I can subtract this hole, which very simply you can draw a circle over this face. From the midpoint, just go to the edge so you can see the center point. It is kind of confusing, I know, but try to locate the center point in this way of the circle. Then you're gonna draw the radius. The diameter of this circle is 20, so it should be with the radius 10, and press enter. So this is the circle. Then you're gonna extrude. Choose this circle. Make sure that you choose the circle, and then extrude this circle with any length. It should be through all, so extend with any length. Make sure that already cutting everything. Then you're gonna subtract from this object and press enter, that object and press enter. So we end up with the hole in this way. And as you can see, the hole is through everything. Now we still have only one thing to create here, which is this slot, this opening. It should be subtracted. But how we can do it, the best thing actually is that we can draw like if you're gonna look at it from the side view, it will be seen like T-shape. Like it will be seen like standing T-shape in this way. And this T-shape, if you extrude it, it will be extended all the way this way. Okay, like you have a T-shape and you're gonna extrude it, so you're gonna find it intersecting with the shape, then you're gonna subtract. Okay, as you can see, this requires more practice to come up with this shape, to come up with these things, right? So this T-shape, it should have this baseline. It should be with 16, and this height, it should be 30. Do you see the 30? So let me remove these lines. Okay, so if I decided to look at it from the side view, so now since I'm gonna work over the side view, so the left side, so I'm gonna move to the left side as use view. So I'm gonna move to the left. Over this left side, your objective is just to draw like T-shape here. In this way, like there should be a baseline here, this baseline which is the 16, and there should be a vertical height with 30. Then you're gonna have like the width here, which is 42, right? So, and this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna draw line. It's gonna be clear as I'm creating the shape. Draw line from the midpoint, and it should be 30 from the top, right, from this height. So this total distance is 50. It means that there should be 20 from this edge down here. So from this line, I'm just gonna, from this midpoint, I'm just gonna draw a vertical line with 20. Then I'm gonna go to the right with 8, which is half the 16. Then I'm gonna jump up with 30. Then to the left with, or you can even go back here to this point again, and you're gonna have 8 to the left. Then you're gonna jump up with 30, which is gonna give you the height. This should be 30. Okay, I don't know. this should be like this line is 30. How come this one is 30 as well? Okay, it seems that I drew this one wrong. So this should be like from this point, it should be 30 as well. Okay, so going back again to the 3-dimension, this is one of the problem that as I mentioned, of the AutoCAD. As you can see, this line is, this should like, it should be vertical, it should be standing, not aligned with this face. One of the things, if we already working, so I'm gonna let you know why we end up with this thing. So I'm just gonna repeat it over. When you choose the command and you start, make sure that, because I need it vertical, make sure that this face is highlighted in this way, not this one. If I did it this one, so AutoCAD gonna align the drawings to be inclined to this surface, because this surface is already inclined in the drawing, right? So I have to make sure that this face is the activated one, is the clearly seen face. In this way, like you're gonna pick line and don't, if you draw line and keep working and so on, so you're already working over this face. No, this is not preferred. You have to activate, make sure this one is like highlighted, and from this midpoint you can start creating the line 20. So in this case the line will be seen vertical in that way. Make sense? Then going back here, and now I'm just gonna draw from this midpoint, from, so as you can see, if you choose this point, now this line, this face is highlighted. This is the problem. Okay, so make sure that when you create the lines, like for example, this is line from this midpoint, I'm gonna go 20, and then I'm gonna move 8. Don't cancel the command, because you're gonna use the activated face and you're gonna use it like 8. Then you're gonna go 30. Okay, as you can see, there is a problem here. When I type 30, it gives me like different thing. Then I mean, like, try to make it like one closed loop. Don't cancel the command, keep working with the command. So this should be like 16, and then I'm gonna drop down with 30, then I'm gonna close the shape with 8, and so on. So in this case, I'm gonna see the line vertical standing, or the line is standing in this way. Then I can remove this line. So this is gonna give me like this rectangular thing, but standing. When you extrude it, it will be cut all the entire shape. Make sense? Then in the meanwhile, I have to cut some of this cylindrical shape. It should be cut into this way, like there should be something cutting here. So that's why I'm saying that there should be like T shape, and all of this T shape will be extended to cut the shape entirely. Okay, but this T shape, it should be with the width of this line, it should be 42 from the midpoint to the right, half of it to the left, half of it, and the height, it should be any height, no matter any height, it doesn't matter, and this should be subtracted, and this is what we're gonna do. So now I'm just gonna work over this line. I'm gonna make a point belonging to this line. So as you can see, I'm gonna face a problem right now with this midpoint. Why? Because if you choose this midpoint and you start to draw a line, this line, if you're gonna look at it, will be aligned with the face. Okay, will be aligned with the face, but I need it vertical. So it means that it should be activated over the surface. I mean, like, I have to activate this thing. So this is one of the challenges and one of the problems of AutoCAD. So one of the things, you can change to the 2-dimensional wireframe. So you're gonna choose the face, change to the 2-dimensional wireframe, but you have to observe the lines. And why I've moved to the 2-dimensional wireframe, because in this visual style, once you come close to any face, you're already choosing the face, and AutoCAD align the line to that face, and I don't need this thing. So I had to move to the 2-dimensional wireframe. So now when you draw in a line, it should be seen in the vertical plane. So let us try this thing and let's see if it's gonna be working or not. So this is from this midpoint. I'm just gonna draw half of the 42, which it should be 21 to the left, to the right, and then I'm just gonna jump up with any vertical height, and then 42 to the left. Then I'm gonna drop down up to this edge, then I'm just gonna close the shape with the 21. So going here to the three-dimensional thing, as you can see the T-shape standing, and this is what we needed, right? But this T-shape, it should be single object, so I have to use trim and press enter to trim this part. Trim, I'm sorry, my bad. And another one, enter, and you're gonna trim this line in the middle here. Okay, so I end up with the T-shape. This T-shape, as you can see in the drawing, if you try to extrude it all the way till the end and then you subtract, you're gonna end up with this opening automatically. Okay, it would be challenging to some of you to get the idea of this T-shape, but again, this requires more practicing. As you practice more and you deal with more complicated shapes and increase the level of the complexity of these shapes, you're gonna be in a good shape. And this is what I mean by the practicing. You have to practice more and think how you can do or create these objects using AutoCAD. As you practice more, you're gonna be more expert in these things. So you're just gonna choose this shape and join and press enter, so it became like a single object. Now even if I move back again to this visual style so I can see the extrusion, now I'm gonna choose extrude of this face and press enter and extrude all the way, make sure that it completely entirely cut the shape. Make sense? Now if I subtract from this object and press enter that object and press enter, you're gonna end up with the solid object in this way, which is typically the same like this one. So this is for this example, and this was the last example of this video. So again, the objective is to practice more over these shapes or other shapes, to practice to know how you can break down the shape into some simple parts, and to know how you can create these things. This require more practicing, and which are the main commands that you're gonna use. As you can see through this video, over all of these different shapes, the essential commands that we used were the extrusion and the union, subtract, these commands. These are the most common things, but definitely in addition to these commands, there is also revolve that we can use, press ball, we can use it in some cases. But loft, sweeps, you're gonna barely use these commands for creating objects. We need them actually for much way complicated shapes, very advanced complicated shapes, so we might need using these loft and sweep commands. But extrusion, revolve, subtract, union, press ball, you're gonna be in a good shape to create any object using AutoCAD 3D as a 3D solid. Make sense? So that's it for this video, and thank you, and see you in the next video.